Hello, my name is Derek from Tomcat Gas Training and welcome to part 2 on building a wine advent calendar for Christmas. So if you haven't seen part 1, have a look over there and find that before you watch part 2. So let's stop waffling and let's get on with part 2. Now, this is probably the hardest part of the build. Figuring out where you're going to put the holes so you can slide the bottles into the advent calendar. So if we look at the triangle now, we have, now before we drill the holes in the wood, let's just talk about what size drills and hole saws we're going to be using. Hold it like that. Now also what I've done is I've cut some scrap, again this 18mm ply, and I've put them down the sides there. So the first thing I did was I did them on this side, just right on the edge of the holes. Put that together, and now I can hold it together and I can put my screws in to get it all screwed together. Now, this is probably the hardest part of the build. Figuring out where you're going to put the holes so you can slide the bottles into the advent calendar. Now, I've done a bit of trialing and found out that my first measurements I made, they were a little bit close. So, if you can see on my actual template, I decided I would draw around the hole saw I was going to use and see how close it was going to end up, and they ended up a little bit close because this bit here is still got to be strong enough to hold everything up. Now you could, I'm using 10mm plywood here, you could use slightly thinner stuff, but you've got to think this is quite close here, so you still need the strength. So this is incredibly important that we don't mess this up. So I've made some slight alterations and I've kind of gone from inches to metric now because I'm just an idiot and it works out a little bit easier for me. So if we look at the triangle now, we have 420mm across the bottom, 420mm down each side and 360mm from top to bottom in the middle. So let's just go back to the board so I can explain these dimensions a little bit more clearly so you can see exactly how far apart these centres are. So let's go and have a look at the board now then. So as I've just said, let's try and sort this out. So like I've just told you, from corner to corner all across the bottom, 420mm, and obviously it's a triangle. So this should be 420mm down this side and 420mm down that side. So that's the first thing, make sure it's a triangle. And then we've got this 360 then from centre to centre down the centre, from top to bottom. So the first thing I did was I measured 120mm down, 120mm down and 120mm down. Then from the top here down to here I measured 70mm, like I've done there. Then I measured another 70mm, then another 70mm, then another, then another, then another. And I did that all the way down there, and then I struck the lines across. So from my 120 to my 70. And that's what's giving me this 70mm centres all the way around. Once I'd done that to find the centre of these here, all I did was, this is a square, because I've gone down the centres as well, I just went from centre to centre. From corner to corner, sorry, to give me the centre. So that's how I found the ones here, by just continuing those lines through. Which gives me a gap of 15mm all the way around the 60mm diameter circles. So that's how I worked it out. It took some doing, I'll tell you, but I managed to work it out. So I'll just leave this here for a few seconds so you can see it, and then you can take these dimensions down. So hopefully that's made it clearer. You can't believe how long that took, but there you go. The reason why I'm doing that is because the biggest hole saw we're going to be using is this one, which is 60 millimeters. Okay, so 60 millimeters across there, so it gives us that little bit of meat around the holes so the bottles don't fall on each other. This isn't an exact science, guys. At the end of the day, I'm a gas engineer, not a mathematician or a fancy joiner, and it's just making something that's not perfect, but you'll see. I made one of these for my wife, like I said, last year, and the reaction I got from it was amazing. And that's what you're after, something you're giving for Christmas to somebody what they're going to appreciate and they're going to love. Okay, and it's going to be unique, it's going to be yours, not something what's been mass produced. So that's the hardest thing, marking it out. Next hardest thing is drilling them out. So let's have a look at that. Now, before we drill the holes in the wood, let's just talk about what size drills and hole saws we're going to be using. So these are kind of the two standard bottles I'm going to be using on this advent calendar. So this is just a Prosecco bottle. So the size of here is going to determine the size of the holes in the front of the advent calendar, and the base is going to determine the holes in the back of the advent calendar, because you're going to slide the bottles through from the back. So from the front you'll only see the caps. Now if you look here, this has got a bigger cap than that one, so that's going to determine the minimum size holes we're going to be able to use. So if I measure this, this is coming out at about 31 millimeters. Okay, so I'm going to use a 35 millimeter or an 1 3/8 bit to go through the front. So that's the front. Now, because of the back, we need to measure the bases. So the base of this is about, that one's about 51 millimeters, and that one is 51 millimeters. So I'm going to be using a 60 millimeters or a 2 3/8 hole saw, and that's going to go through the back. Okay, so that's what determines the holes what's going through your advent calendar. So depending on the size of the bottles will depend on how big we do these holes. So I better put these back before I drop them. How ironic though is it that a complete teetotaler all my life is making wine advent calendars. So I guess you could use other stuff for this. So bottles of cordial or Coke or whatever you want to use. Beer, small bottles of beer, it's okay. So it's not just for wine, but you'll need to make the holes for whatever bottles you're going to be putting through. Now we're finally ready for drilling these holes. So what I've done is I put some sacrificial pieces of wood underneath the actual advent calendar, because I don't want to drill through the table, because the trainees won't be too happy if they've got holes all in the table. Now, what size holes am I going to drill in first? So using my drill, in here I have a 4 millimeter bit for drilling through wood, because this has got a 6 millimeter bit in it. So this is going to kind of pre-drill the holes but centralise it so I can put it in. Now this is the important bit. Now this here at the front one we've marked out is going to be the back. And the reason why it's going to be the back is that's where we need to be as accurate as we can when we're drilling this through, because it's very close and we don't want to break out to the other one. So if we drill through on a funny angle, it might end up where this will be all wrong. But because we're using such a smaller bit on the other side, we could get away with it if we're drilling on an angle. Now, to help us drill straight, we could actually use, so if I'm going to drill this here, put the drill bit there, and I could actually use the set square to actually drill the hole straight for me. So if I look straight down the drill, hold that like that, flat onto the table, start it, check it, yeah, pretty much straight, hold it like that, and I've drilled straight through the two pieces of wood because they're still joined together, and that will give me the holes for the other side to be able to drill that. So, do another one. Make sure we smack them. Yeah, we are. Get our set square, keep the drill straight. Straight through. Okay, so I'll get the other ones done, but this time I'll remember to put my glasses on, because you've always got to have your PPE on. So make sure you got your specs on, because you don't want anything getting in your eyes. So let's get the rest of these holes drilled. Now, as you can see, we've gone right the way through. So what we can do now is finally separate the two pieces of wood. So we just need to take these screws out. We can just fill those holes in later, but now you can see they're separated. So remember, this is going to be the back and this is going to be the front. So what we need to do is just mark on here with a pencil that this is the front and this is the back, so we don't get confused. Okay, so it's going to be like that. Okay, so let's get these bigger holes drilled through now and get the finishing touches done. Now, first thing we're going to do is drill with our bigger hole saw. So remember, this is a 60mm one. So always again, make sure you put your specs on. Now, Depending on the speed of your drill will depend on how quick you're going through here, and you need to go through quite quickly. Now again, I've got a sacrificial piece of wood underneath because I don't want to go through the table. So this time it's just a matter of slowly going through till you get to where you want to go, and I'm just going to check and make sure I've got enough gap, which I have. So let's get these holes drilled. Kind of comes in handy if your battery's charged. Whoops! And now for the last hole, on this side anyway. So that's all the holes drilled for the back. So all I've got to do now is the front. Now I've just got exactly the same thing to do for this front side, but I'm using the smaller size of 35mm. Nearly forgot my glasses again then. And for the last one, And that is all the holes in the front done. So that's another go of sanding. So we're getting a little bit smoother now. So what we've got to do next is we've got to somehow join the two of them together. So let's have a look at that then. Now, next thing I needed to do is I needed to make the base and the spacers. So basically what I've got here are the two spacers which are going to go at the bottom. Now I cut these out of one piece first. I notched them when there was one piece. It made it so much easier. So from the inside to inside of the notch is 110mm, around about 4 inches. Okay, so that's when I've made the notch, and then you can make the base stick out as far as you want. I didn't want it sticking out too far. So they're the first two pieces, and I've made this at a thicker ply. This is 18mm ply instead of the 10. Now, to accommodate these notches, what I've had to do is notch the base of the main body as well, because this needs to slot into there. So what I've done is, this again is 110mm 4-inch wide, but I've had to notch these notches to allow the plywood to go through. So I've made these notches 20mm. I made them a little bit wider so that they can slot in like that. So that's notching the bases as well as notching these. So, and I also needed to make myself a spacer for the top, which again is from end to end 110mm or 4 inches. Now also what I've done is I've cut some scrap, again this 18mm ply, and I've put them down the sides there. So the first thing I did was I did them on this side, just right on the edge of the holes. Okay, so you can see how that's right on the edge of the holes. So from there to the end of that point there, 70mm, okay, and from there to the end is 40mm, and then I transferred those measurements onto this side, and then I could put these two pieces on. Okay, so also what I've done is found the centre of the hole there and drilled through, and that's where my spacer piece is going to connect on, and it's going to go that way around like that. Obviously that's the front, so it goes there. Okay, so let's do a bit of assembly. So the first thing I need to do is I've marked these back left and back right, so they go that way around. So this is the front, so that slots in that side, and that slots in there, so you can see it's already standing up. And then I just need to do the same with the back. Okay, so you can now see they're stood up, and then this spacer now needs screwing into there. So let's get that screwed. So now you can see it's quite stable. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to cut some plywood down the sides here to cover the sides, because you don't want to see the sides of the bottles, and this is what these pieces of scrap ply are. So first of all I need to get some 3mm ply, and I'm going to cut it down. Now remember, this is 110 millimeters or 11 centimeters, so I'm going to cut it at about 10.5 centimeters or 100.5 millimeters to give me a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm going to cut two pieces now, one to go there, one to go there. So let's get on with that. So I've cut my 2 pieces of pliers you've just seen. Now I've marked it left and right, and this is my left and right, not yours, because you're the opposite way around. So that piece there which I've marked left goes on that side, like that. And that one, where's the right, goes on there like that. So what I've done is I've pre-drilled the holes, but to keep them in place I'm going to clamp it first. So I'm going to clamp it together. And what that'll do then is, once I get, let's make sure I've got it the right way around, so that was going on that side. So that one goes on that side. So once I slide that in, level it up at the bottom, and then I can use my clamps then to keep it in place, and I can screw it all together. So I could do the same with this side. Again, get them level, the top and the bottom. Get another clamp. Put that together, and now I can hold it together and I can put my screws in to get it all screwed together. So that's screwing them together. You can now see the final shape. Now, all I've got to do now is take it all apart again, paint it and decorate it. So that's going to be in our final part. So if you've liked this video, why don't you give me a thumbs up or leave a constructive comment down below. If you've not subscribed to our channel, then please subscribe because it helps, and don't forget to hit that notification bell because we release videos mainly on Mondays and Wednesdays. All I've got left to say is thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and tune in on Monday to see the final part on making this wine bottle, whatever you want to call it, advent calendar. Cheers guys!